Bracken Darrell is the president and CEO of Logitech. Logitech designs products that have an everyday place in people's life, connecting them to digital experience they care about. David Sinclair, of course, is an AFAR scientist and an AFAR board member. He's a tenured professor in the Department of Genetics at Harvard, and he's the co-director of the Glenn Center at Harvard, and he's also a young brother to me. Bracken and David, but by the way, to be fair to you, it would take the whole 15 minutes, so just take it away now.
I want to jump right in, David, and you are, I've had the benefit of being on your board at Life Biosciences, and I continue to be amazed with where you think this world's going. What do you think the potential is here? What do you think that, let's start with how long could people live? What's 50 years from now? How long will people live? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Thanks, Bracken. That was a sarcastic thanks. My real thanks goes to Sami. Happy birthday, Tova and AFAR for supporting my career since the beginning. So Bracken, the reason I'm sarcastic about that, thank you, is I've got some of my colleagues here, and they tend to roll their eyes when I start to open up my imagination. And so I have really an academic answer and then just a dream with me answer. And I can do both. Yeah. The academic answer is we haven't been that successful at extending lifespan beyond about 20–30%, which is still a great thing to go by. And one thing that Nir says well, and I'm going to copy him badly, is we know that humans can make it to 122. So that's still a lot to play with, even if that's our limit. But I don't think it's our limit. There is no law of biology that says we must age. There are many species that live longer and better than we do. And I think that if we say that just the current technology and how you currently eat and exercise is our limit, I think that's a mistake, right? As much as people in the late 1800s would have said flying was impossible. So that's actually my conservative answer, believe it or not. My dream with me answer is that at the beginning of my career, we're going back to last century now, I wasn't that optimistic. It's fun to say we can live to 200 and that's fine, but there's no evidence that we can do that. Still isn't. But the reason that I'm more sanguine than ever is the results that are coming out of the field are coming faster and faster and more impressive and more impressive. And this new work that a number of people are doing in the field that's now seemingly helping to unite many aspects of aging as we've known it, being able to reprogram the very nature of cells to seemingly be younger. And Morgan kindly mentioned some of the work we've done together in that regard. That gives me quite a lot of optimism that either within our lifetime or slightly beyond that, we will harness that ability to control the age of the body in a safe way. And when we do that, it's hard to put a limit on what we might be able to do. I think within our lifetime, we'll be able to repair tissues, rebuild them, make them younger in a safe way. Certainly the eye and the ear look really promising right now for reversing that. Ultimately, the dream would be to re-engineer the entire body and send it back in age and reset that clock and reset systems that make us old. And I've seen some data now that makes me think that will one day be possible.
And what is the, what's the fuel that's needed now? I mean, Sami's been one of the biggest promoters of investing in health span and extending aging. But what else is needed besides money? Because I have a feeling there's going to be more and more money come into this. There will be more and more Samis out there. There could never be another Sami, but
right.
What else is really needed here? What's missing to get the big breakthroughs?
Sure. Well, we brought it up earlier. What's needed now to make these really big things happen is international collaboration and teams of people that have multiple skills. So this paper that we published with Morgan recently, there were a dozen labs, and every one of them had their own special expertise, including AI, use of AI. And I think all the easy things have been done. Not all, but a lot of them have been done. And so, you know, similar to physics in the early 20th century, things start to get a little bit more complicated, but to push forward, you need these teams with diverse skills. But to make that work, we need systems that encourage scientists to work together and the funds to support it. And I think we scientists, unfortunately, because of the authorship issue, the way it's been historically set up, we need other motives to truly collaborate. And what I've been really excited by is that this field of aging research, just in my career, has gone from individuals who were often fighting with each other over small things to really all coming together and banding together, working together. So I'm really optimistic that we can do that.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you know, as a newcomer to this field of what ultimately often results in some kind of pharmacological therapy, you know, a drug. You know, I was before I got into this, I assumed, and I sort of thought I knew that the competition was so severe that the cooperation was really minimal. And so I had that mindset even when I joined your board. Now that I'm in, I actually feel like I see so much collaboration, and I don't see the competition. Now, I don't know if it's because of this particular window that I'm looking through, or if that's changed. It really has changed. I mean, you mentioned it, but is it different in this particular field of aging, or is there something going on here broadly?
I think we've evolved, and Professor Steve Ostad's talking after me, and he can give his views. That, you know, I joined this field in the early 90s when it was just emerging. There were geneticists getting involved, and this was a brand new thing. We're all discovering these longevity genes and how they interact with the environment and how food makes a difference. And the people who are speaking today were part of that. But when any field begins, I think that there is a race, you know, to grab new turf. And some of the personalities involved in the field were really competitive at competitive places. But I've seen now that the field has matured, and literally we have matured. You know, we are not young kids anymore either. And we think that the goal and the benefit to the world is more important than any one person.
Interesting. And why do you think, and maybe it's just the way progress happens, but why do you think this is happening now? Why didn't it happen 10 years ago, or why wouldn't it be happening 10 years from now? Why is it now?
Right. Well, I just put it down to the maturity of the science. You go back 30 years ago, there wasn't a lot of work being done that was, you know, on the cover of Cell Science and Nature magazines. There were a few, but we've come a long way. We now have a much better grasp on an agreement on what the causes, or at least the hallmarks of aging are. And we have these new technologies that Amos and Morgan were talking about, where we can analyze a cell or a tissue 1 million times faster than we could do before. And we're learning so much about aging. And then what we've learned is that this process is actually quite malleable, and it's not such a mystery anymore. And now it's really a question of, can we translate what we've learned over the past couple of decades into medicines? And that's igniting the excitement, not just of the field, but people who are looking in from the outside.
And I can tell Nir is trying to interrupt, but let me ask one more question. So the other thing that strikes me as I've gotten to look at this field a little bit is how small the number of experts are, you know, given how big the opportunity is. It seems like both from an impact on humanity standpoint, from a financial standpoint, this ought to be the biggest field in medicine. I mean, it should really be the field that attracts more money, more people as people are growing. Is that, and so it's a small field today in my view, but maybe I don't see it all, relative to a lot of other areas of medicine. Is it going to explode in numbers? Are people coming out of medical schools and PhD programs? Are there tons of people now, folks, are after this? Is it about to go through the roof in terms of the number of people in it?
I think it is. Now we're still in a mid stage of the field, and organizations like AFAR have been instrumental in supporting young scientists, because without them we won't grow. But one of the things that, at least until recently, has held us back is that most of our funding comes from the government, here in the US at least, and probably the same elsewhere. And the government has tended to be conservative. They put money into diseases one by one. Alzheimer's gets a lot, cancer gets a lot. And these, of course, are diseases of aging, but only recently, I think, have we made the breakthrough of convincing those either reviewers down at NIH and people who put out requests for proposals, that if you understand aging, it's going to help those diseases as well. So it's been partly a political battle, and the numbers, the dollars that are put into understanding the fundamentals of aging biology have always been a fraction of a % of what goes into Alzheimer's and cancer, and to some extent diabetes. But I do see that changing, and now you can submit a grant to, say, study Alzheimer's with an aging bent to it. So it's, really money determines how fast a field can grow, to be honest. You can have all the enthusiasm in the world, but if there aren't jobs or money to support the people, it's just not going to happen.
I totally believe that. I mean, that as a person who's grown up in different kinds of businesses, it's amazing how the economics of a business drive the growth and the attraction of competitors. And I think it's the same thing here. I think that this has not yet been converted into a financial impact business. And as cold-blooded as that sounds, I think that's going to make a huge difference as products and chemistry start to come in that are really making a lot of money.
Right. Well, pharmaceutical companies are getting into this. The World Health Organization has declared aging a medical condition. The FDA, which Steve and Nir have been working on to get them to realize that this is an important area of drug development. These are all going well. I think we need to keep putting the pressure on and investing in that time and money. But I have a question for you, Bracken. You've run multi-billion-dollar companies and still do. Do you think there's something that we could be doing better, either in academia or in biotech, to go faster?
Well, I think one of the challenges that everybody has is, it's hard to see the vision, and I think when you talk about a vision of somebody living forever, a lot of people say, I don't want to do that, and then if you say, okay, adding a few years, well, it seems like that's very doable, but it seems like a modest goal. I think that we need to somehow tie the vision of extending health span to an area that's really super inspirational. And I'm not sure exactly how to do that, but I think they're articulating a vision for why health span matters might be helpful. That's one thing I would probably do. The other thing is, I think there's so much talent in this business. I mean, I don't think I've ever worked in a field where every time I run into an expert, I feel like, this person is like, God, I mean, so brilliant. And yet the businesses in this field that might help, drive the efficiency and the effectiveness are still very young and very small. And until someone, until there's an Apple in this business, I'm not sure that there will be an organized approach that will drive a lot faster kind of growth curve in a business kind of way. Right now it's growing more. I look at it almost like it's more like a wild field where, seeds are sprayed across and they're starting to sprout and it's exciting. It's not a cultivated farm where you really have a vision and you've laid out individual plots, and this thing's we're going to grow and we're going to turn this into something big. I just don't think it's quite mature enough yet.
Yeah, that makes total sense. We are on the verge of this, but we need somebody or some group or some company to show that what we've been saying is possible. The first drug that comes out of our field, there's already metformin, there's rapamycin, but those weren't developed with the intent to affect lifespan. Whether
Right.
they do or not, we'll see. But yeah, once our field develops a drug, I think everyone will, not everyone, but it will be a real catalyst. And also showing that an existing drug like metformin can delay aging, promote health span, will be a big step forward as well.
You're right. Absolutely. Should we take a few questions, David? What do you think?
Yeah.
If anybody has any.
Well, David, you're supposed to ask Bracken not all about the science, but about the acceleration of the business side.
All right.
He tried. I gave the weakest answer given yet, but I gave some kind of answer.
You can say whatever you want without the question.
I already said what I kind of believe. I think businesses take off because of business potential, and I think the same thing's probably true of this field. I think when the business potential is realized, right now I think everybody knows there's potential, but the economics aren't there yet. Right now it's a lot of investment and not much return. And I think until you start to see something that looks like it's really got a high probability of returning investment, you're not going to have as much. You're going to have people like Sami who fundamentally believe in this. And there are other people, Paul Allen and others, who fundamentally believe this is going to happen, and they're investing way ahead of the curve. But in terms of really turning it into a growth business, you got to have something to sell, and right now there's not a lot out there. And I think once the products start to come to market, I think you'll have this whole thing will really accelerate. And I think the big drug companies will come in heavy and hard, and there will be more people investing. But I personally, as probably the least knowledgeable person here about the field, but maybe one of the more knowledgeable ones about how businesses do scale, I think we're on the verge. I think over the next 10 years, David said that I think you're going to see things start to really kick in here. And I think it's the investments of Sami and people like Sami that are making all the difference. I think, it's right now we've been fertilizing this field now for about 10, 15 years, and I think it's on the verge. Maybe it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think within the next decade it will. It's been one of the things that attracted me to it. I'm a super practical, very long-term person. I can see this coming.
Yeah, well, I've appreciated your mentorship on the business side, because you've got to get that right too. If you don't, no idea is going to make it to the market. And you're probably the best person to speak about that, because Logitech is pure innovation, right? You've got to go from concept to something that sits on people's desk and never breaks, hopefully.
But we're a good example of, when I talked to Sami that lunch a long time ago, 9 years ago, he said to me, I think, Sami, I'm not going to embarrass you, I hope, but he said, he came to the lunch because I asked him his advice, should I take the job? And he sat down and he said, I studied the case last night, and, the company's worth about $1 billion. He said, I could buy this company, but I don't know anything about technology. He said, so I wouldn't do that. He said, it seems like a risky thing to do, but you're young and and I think you're capable, and I think that maybe you could turn it around. It doesn't look easy. 9 years later, we're worth 20 times more than we were then. So it was a great pice of advice that Sami gave me, particularly the clean the windows and wash the floors, or wash the windows and clean the floors. And I think we're an example of what's going to come next in this field of longevity, which is the companies that take, if today most of the people in this room are really building the farm, which is the technologies that can come to market, they're going to be the cooks that are going to follow. And we're a cook, we're a chef. We take the ingredients that come from the farm, we put them together, and we turn them into something that users can buy easily, understand, get excited about, and really drive the commercialization and ultimately the application into all the rest of the markets in the world. And so that's not started yet. I think that's coming.
Are we allowed to take questions?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know why we couldn't. Let's do it, David. Let's break the rules. Okay. You want me to tell you what?
John's saying we should wrap it up. So can we take one question, Mr. MC?
I'm not the MC, but there's a question. Just a minute. There's a question from Thomas So. Bracken, do you worry about the hype in terms of holding back or dragging on legitimate promise and progress?
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's a thing called the hype curve in technology, so It's one of the first things I learned here, which it looks like this. I won't even try to draw it, but the bottom line is the concept of a hype curve is, things get hyped, in the public. And then the hype goes into exponential mode. So people get really excited. They're sure things are about to come out. People like me come up and say it's coming in the next 10 years. And then everybody gets really excited and the money flows into the markets and then nothing comes out. And then the hype slows down and a lot of companies go bankrupt and a lot of people leave the business and the curve goes down. And meanwhile, there's some of those in the tortoise and the hare analogy, some of those tortoises that are slowly continuing to go after this thing. Even when the hype was high, they just kept going. And when the hype goes down, they keep going. And then they meet the market. And I think the hype curve comes into every technology. It's already kind of happened a little bit here, but I'm sure it'll happen a little bit more. But yeah, I'm worried a little bit about the hype and not too much. It always happens. And it's always in the rearview mirror when this thing gets really big.
Another question from Natalia. Would you able to elaborate of how economics outside of the United States, like China, may look forward financing aging research?
God, David will probably have a better answer than that. We have a huge business in China, but I have no idea. My instinct though is it's going to happen in China much the same way it is here. That it'll be entrepreneurship. I mean, I think that's really what's driving China for the most part. And people think of it as something else, but it's really an incredibly entrepreneurial country now. And I imagine the entrepreneurs and big investors are going to drive that business big time, and it'll be fast there.
Yeah, well, they're suffering from the fact that they have only one child per two parents who are aging rapidly, so they might be more needy than the rest of the world.
So